I would say that my biggest lesson learned in 2021 when it comes to my knitting Hey everyone, my name is Lisa and welcome to the Stop Drop In It podcast. Today I have a special episode for you all. We are going to have a look at my finished objects for 2021. So this is kind of a year in review episode of all of the things that have come off of my needles in the year 2021. I am coming to you from my bedroom because it's dark out, because it's not during the day, and it's also rainy, and because I've been sick. So the lighting in here is not the best. I've got an artificial light, studio light here. One of my two bulbs burned out, so we are a little bit less well lit than we could be, but we are going to go with it. And hopefully you guys will be able to see everything well enough for the purpose of this video. So let's see. I think I should tally up what I've got. So just kind of glancing at everything over here and doing a quick tally, it looks like I have 10 sweaters, 6 pairs of socks, 3 hats, 2 shawls, 1 scarf, and 3 stuffed animal friends. Not too bad. Not too bad. So I am going to start with all of the things that I selfishly finished for myself. And I think we will also do a Knitworthy segment of the things that I knit for the people that I love. And then I think I will also grab the yarns that I finished spinning. I don't have those right now, but I think that those should make it into this video too. So I think today we will have finished objects, Knitworthy, and a spinning segment. So let's get started. So we're going to start with sweaters, and when I look at all of the sweaters that I knit in 2021, there's something that really stands out to me, and that is that 8 of them were test knits, and only 2 of them were just because I wanted to knit them sweaters. So I want to talk about that a little bit. I think I did too much test knitting in 2021. And now I have not sworn off all test knitting because, truth be told, I'm about to cast on my first sweater for 2022, and it will be a test knit that I committed to doing. You know, looking at everything here, I definitely have a lot of sweaters that I really enjoy and I'm really proud of. But at the same time, I think that there's designs out there that interest me more than a lot of the ones that I test knit. So the first thing I think we should talk about is all of the biggest stuff. And that's all the sweaters that I knit this year. I did so much sweater knitting. Honestly though, when I look at all of these sweaters and count them up, 8 out of the 10 sweaters that I did were test knits, which is kind of insane, I think, because that's just a lot of knitting on a deadline and on a commitment. And I think that, you know, just right off the bat, you know, things that I want to do differently in the new year in 2022 is I want to take my knitting back for myself a little bit more. And while I will probably still agree to the occasional test knit, I mean, let's be honest, the very first thing that I'm casting on in January already is going to be a test knit for Miss Annie Lupton of Boho Chic Fiber Co. because she threw out there a design that I just thought would be a really cute layering piece, and that's why I signed up for this next one. But at the same time, life is getting busier. I'm starting a full-time job. I mean, I'm doing my same job, but I'm taking on a lot more responsibilities. I'm trying to start up a yarn dyeing business now. we're moving, you know, life is just getting kind of insanely crazy. And so I think that it would be really smart of me to cut back on commitment knitting in 2022. But let's have a look at all of the things that I accomplished in 2021 through test knits alone. So I think we'll start with all my test knit sweaters, and then I'll show you the ones that I did just for me. So the very first one is probably my most epic knit ever. And this thing is a beast, you guys. I will be inserting pictures of me wearing these finished objects because I just can't show them to you here. I don't feel like trying them all on. I am still sick and I'm hot and I just don't feel like sticking on sweaters right now. So pictures you will get, and those will show these items off much more beautifully. But the first one is, of course, Noctuidae by Catherine Clark. Catherine Clark is the owner of Brooklyn General in Brooklyn, New York, and I also had the pleasure, after finishing her test knit, of interviewing her. So if you guys have not yet checked out that interview, if you scroll back to, I think we did it in February, or maybe it was the very end of January, but it was early on in 2021. We had an interview, and it was pretty much the first time that I ventured out of my house since quarantine and all of that stuff. So that was an exciting adventure, and Catherine Clark is just such a sweet person. This sweater, though, let's talk about this sweater. This sweater is gorgeous. It was knit with Barrett. I used Barrett Wilco for the main color, and this is in the color Oats. And then Tuku wool is the solid brown in the background, and then all of the colorful bits of all of these butterflies was spin cycle yarn in the Noctuidae colorway, which they designed especially for this sweater for Catherine Clark. This sweater really challenged my color work knitting. I had done 3-color knitting before, three color stranded knitting, but the way that this design is spaced out, I was really challenged in how to best carry the floats behind the work, because it wasn't a very regular pattern of knitting color work. There were some very short floats that happened often, and then there were some really, really long stretches between the colors that you really had to figure out how best to carry that yarn so that your knitting would be consistent and even. And I just remember struggling with that a lot. I remember that this was a very time-consuming knit because of the sheer amount of color work throughout the sweater. And it was kind of unrelenting, this one. Now, I am counting this amongst my finished objects. Oh, and the sleeve has this really cute detail too. Really cute. Let's see if I can get it spread out and show you guys. I can insert another picture. Here we go. So after I talk about each sweater, I will insert some proper photos for you. But yeah, so there's some really gorgeous detail on the sleeve. The other thing I really loved about test knitting this sweater for Catherine Clark, that was an experience that I don't often experience in some of the other test knits that I do, was finding a real sense of community with my knitting colleagues. I met so many knitters that either in the test knitting process, we were chatting with each other, kind of, commiserating together and just kind of really cheering each other on throughout this monstrous knit. And now I've walked away with some really great knitting friends who we still chat on Instagram all the time. I even met some of them on a Zoom knitting chat thing recently, and it was really fun. So I think that more than any other sweater that I have knit, especially in a test knit, this is one that really brought us together. So this is my Noctuidae. It's technically not 100% finished. I have to still do the hem. Yeah, you can see when I did the interview with Catherine Clark, she did a little tutorial where she started to do the duplicate stitch for me, and I still haven't gone back and done it. So I think that in 2022, I need to figure out this duplicate stitch thing and just get this sweater done 100% so that I can wear it, because the way that it is right now, I can't really wear it, because now we've got a hem that is partially tacked in place, a duplicate stitch that is like 3 stitches started and ends hanging out everywhere at the bottom. So I really can't wear it in its state right now. So I think that this, this has actually truthfully been sitting down on my couch waiting to be finished. And I wore it out to Brooklyn General, which was really fun. And I've worn it like before I started to do the hem, and it was just a completely unfinished rolled hem, but I haven't worn it since. And I put so much work into this sweater that I would really like to wear it. It is incredibly warm with the color work all over the place. So on my list to finally get done in the near future is finish the hem on this thing. So that is my Noctuidae sweater, and here are some proper finished object photos for you to enjoy. Okay, so next up on the test knitting sweater journey of 2021, I had this cute little sleeveless sweater, and this is called the Journey Tea by Annie Lupton, and this turned out really, really beautifully. I also don't wear this one, and I like it. What I'm struggling with is the weight of the yarn for this knit. Honestly, it's an Aran weight yarn. I love this yarn. But for a sleeveless tee, I find it too warm for the time of year where you would go sleeveless, right? So, and I also didn't love how it looked over any of the long sleeve shirts that I had. So I don't know how to fit this into my wardrobe right now. So this one also has really just not gotten any use. I love how it looks in the photos that I took. But I find it really difficult to wear a sleeveless top in a cooler month of the year, in cooler weather. So I'm still figuring this one out. The yarn that I used, though, is West Yorkshire Spinnery, and I don't remember the exact name of the yarn. I'll have all of that linked, all of my project pages linked to my Ravelry below, so that you guys can check that out for further information. The colorwork pattern was super simple. This was like knit from the bottom up in the round, and then the color work was done flat. So the color work part was actually done flat back and forth, which meant that you had to purl your color work, which honestly I don't mind doing. And I find that when I knit color work flat, my color work tends to lay much more neatly. I think this is some of the neatest knitting work that I have done. And I love the yarn. I love the colors. I just don't wear it. So still trying to figure out the Journey Tee. But it is a super cute sweater. And I just have to either figure out something cute to wear underneath it so that I feel like it could be a good layering piece. Or it just needs to be like that day where it's a little bit too cold to wear a full sleeve sweater, but it's not yet too warm. I don't know. I'm just figuring this one out still. So that was The Journey Tea by Annie Lupton, and here are some finished object photos for you guys. Okay, so moving on to another test knit by Annie Lupton, we have Playwright. And I have not worn this yet, but I do like it and I will wear it. We are now in the proper weather for me to wear this sweater. So it is a super cute design, and what I really love about this one is the colorwork pattern on the yoke over here is done with a really interesting combination of yarns. So the wine colored yarn is Kelborn Scout, from what I remember. And then Woolfolk Flet is like this boucle textured yarn in the color work, which just kind of made it pop just a little bit more. And I think that the detail of this color work is so lovely. The colors of this sweater are gorgeous, and I'm actually really excited to wear this one. Just because I have not worn this one yet this season does not mean that I am not going to. These are kind of poofier sleeves. They're blousier, which is kind of fun and kind of different. And so I am excited to wear my Playwright sweater in the colder weather that we are about to get here in New York soon. So here are some finished object photos of me in my Playwright sweater. Okay, and speaking of test knits for Annie Lupton, there was another sweater that I did for her that I wanted to mention, the Scrappy Crop. I will just insert some photos of it. This was another test knit that I did, and I don't have it anymore because a mishap happened with this sweater, and I just decided I didn't want to fix it. So when I was out taking my finished object photos of this sweater, I got a hole in the elbow. And I don't know if I still have the photo of that hole, but it was really, really sad. The sweater turned out a lot smaller than I envisioned it being and that it was supposed to be. I did not do a swatch for that one. I did not do a gauge swatch, and it showed in my finished object because the sweater was too small, it was ill-fitting, and then because it was ill-fitting and too small, it ripped right away. So, and I think that the reason that a hole got in it is just the striped pattern of that design. It just was not secure for some reason in the way that I knit that one up. So that was a big fail of my test knitting 2021 journey. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I'm not counting that amongst my completed sweaters because I threw it out. Because of the way that it was just so many small bits of knitting, there was really no way that I could salvage that yarn to make a bigger sized sweater. Because it was in so many small bits, I had already woven in the ends. I needed more yardage than I even had left. So that one I just had to call a total loss, and, you know, lesson learned. So, all right, moving on. Okay, so while we are on test knit fails, this is not at all Annie's fault. This was a sweater that I also test knit for Annie Lupton, and I really am sad that I do not have a better finished object to show because I love the design of her Earth Folk sweater. But as you can see, I can fit the entire sweater on camera in this small space in my bedroom, which should be an obvious situation here, is that This is way too small. It used way less yardage in my finished object than it was supposed to in the pattern. I would say that my biggest lesson learned in 2021 when it comes to my knitting is that it is really, really important to do that dreaded gauge swatch. It is so important because I'll tell you what, the rest of the test knits that I have to show you, I did test knit swatches, gauge, whatever they're called. I did a gauge swatch for them, and they all turned out so much better. And I have finished objects that I really like because I took the time to do a test swatch, gauge swatch. Why can't I think of the right word? A gauge swatch. So I love this yarn. Was a yarn that I had from my stash. This was a pattern that I fell in love with of Annie's. Her Earth Folk design was the first of a series of many twisted stitch designs that she has. I honestly like this sweater and this yarn so much that I am considering re-knitting it and doing a proper swatch, making sure that I get the proper gauge, and then actually knitting this to the proper dimensions. So definitely I recommend the Earth Folk sweater by Annie Lupton. I love this design. It's so pretty. I love the color of this yarn. I think that this was a naturally dyed yarn by somebody that was dyed with black grape, I think. And it's just a gorgeous pattern. I just wanted to get right to the knitting part. But when you get right to the knitting part, you guys, and you don't take the time to do a test swatch for gauge, you end up with a sweater that is supposed to fit. I think my 6-year-old son at the time fit this better than I did. Owen is 7 now, and it still would fit him better than me. It barely covers my boobs. Not a look that I can go for at the ripe old age of 43. So, yeah, I have also, since finishing this sweater, I have also probably put on another 10 to 15 pounds. So there is no way that I could wear this, even though I like it and would like to actually see this get use. So I am putting this one into my frog pile. I'm gonna save the yarn. If I knit this sweater again, I could use the same yarn. I certainly have enough of it. Or maybe I'll just use a different yarn and just start from scratch. But I do definitely like the pattern, and I actually would really like to have this sweater in my wardrobe. So I could see myself actually just re-knitting the sweater. So here are some finished object photos. I did aggressively block this one to get it to fit so that I could get some respectable photos for Annie. And I think that it turns out nice on the photos, but it's not going to hold that shape. I had to do such aggressive blocking that it's not going to stay. And with the extra weight that I've put on, it's just not worth it to me to have a sweater that barely covers my chest. So into the frog pile, this one is going. Okay, so now I would like to show you what a sweater looks like when you do a gauge swatch and you do take the time to knit and figure out what size needles to use to achieve the gauge that you need to get to successfully knit a design. So this cute summer folk sweater, it has some creases in it. I wear this sweater so much. I love this sweater. This sweater fits perfectly. This sweater is also a test knit that I did for Annie Lupton of Boho Chic Fiber Co. So don't think that all of these failed sweaters are at all Annie's fault. It's mine. Yeah, so this is her summer folk pattern, and just ignore the creases. It's been folded in my drawer. but it's this cute little honeycomb pattern design. These are kind of situated to look like flowers. She has since designed another sweater that really brings out the honeycomb theme and is long sleeve. It's a simple boat neck design, which on me, I really like. I think it's, me, it's very flattering. I also dyed this yarn myself with oak leaves from the spring that I collected after we had a really bad windstorm. I picked them up from my yard and I naturally dyed this yarn myself. So I probably had to knit like that swatch 4 or 5 times. I was trying a couple different yarns that I had, and then once I settled on this one, I really had to re-knit that swatch a few times to get the proper gauge, which is really important for a sweater like this, where she has a specific amount of rows. So you're not just knitting to a certain amount of inches on the back side, you are counting rows to get the proper length of the sweater. So yeah, it's very creased, but I do wear this one. I have worn this one so many times since I finished it, like at least a half a dozen times, which, you know, considering that we just got through summer, I mean, I guess now it's like we just got through fall too. But I wore this a lot in the fall, and I'm not wearing it so much now because it's short sleeve, but I probably will because I'm still wearing t-shirts. So this is in my most favorite finished object pile, and I will show you some properly posed finished object pics right now. Okay, and my last test knit from Annie, not my last test knit total because we had 10, you guys, was this cute sweater. What was this one called? Lola Chic. This is the Lola Chic sweater. And this also, I took the time to do a gauge swatch, and it fits perfectly. So this is a cute little cropped boxy sweater that cinches in at the waist a little bit. There is a cute little textured stitch pattern on front with some sweet little cables on either side. The yarn that I used for this was Wonderland Yarns Kerfluffle in their Alice DK base, which is just a nice all over speckled yarn. I love how this one came out. Colors are beautiful, and I think that this is perfect for the spring or even the winter months. Just the way that the colors are so gorgeous. So this is another super successful sweater that I'm really glad I added to my wardrobe. So here are some finished object photos of that one. Okay, so we've got 4 sweaters left to talk about. 2 are test knits and 2 are just because I wanted to knit them knits. So first up, let's talk about this one that I did for Caitlin Hunter. I love this sweater. I'm trying to remember what it is called. Glacier Light, yeah, the Glacier Light Tea by Caitlin Hunter. I love everything about this sweater. Now, I did not do a gauge swatch for Caitlin Hunter for this sweater. The reason is because I have found with her patterns that have always, all of the ones that I have knit from Caitlin Hunter have fit really well. My gauge is always seems to be smack on with what hers is. So I feel like I have knit enough Caitlin Hunter patterns to know that we have a similar gauge. And I've also knit mostly her sweaters have been done in fingering weight yarn. So this was another one that was in fingering weight yarn. And I just trusted it and went for it. And in this case, it turned out perfectly. So This is a cute little lacy pattern design. I used a mini skein set from my stash by Backyard Fiberworks, and I love the colors together. And then the solid purple was Knitworthy Things, plum something or other colorway, and it is just so gorgeous. So this sweater I love so much. It is the perfect summer tee. I guess you could probably also layer it for the warmer, like cooler months, but I have not tried that yet. So I will now insert some proper finished object photos of the Glacier Light Tea by Caitlin Hunter. Okay, and the last of my test knit sweaters is my very favorite, and I'm pretty sure that if you have been with me on my channel, you know exactly what sweater I am talking about, and that is my Garland pullover by Stephanie Lotvin. I love this sweater. This is my Christmas sweater that I knit over the spring and summer. I love it. I used Barrett Wool Co. in the colorway Oats, and this is actually leftover yarn from that first Noctuidae sweater that I showed you. I had enough to pull out a whole other sweater and then some. And the minis that I used were from Knitworthy Things, and these are all have a hint of sparkle in them, which I thought was a very festive touch for the garland and the holly berries. I love this sweater. I think out of all of the sweaters that I have knit in 2021, this is hands down my favorite. It fits perfectly. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. This is a highly, highly recommended sweater. I just love this one so much. I think everybody should knit it for next Christmas. And yeah, so Tellybean Knits is her Instagram handle, and her pattern like shop name, it's Stephanie Lotvin. Go follow her over on Instagram at Tellybean Knits. And here are some finished object photos. Okay, and then to finish out my sweater knitting, I have two that I did just for fun. So I actually first learned about Stephanie Lotvin from her book Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn, and I had seen the Bright Axis tee in that book and all over Instagram, and I just had to knit this sweater. I love this sweater. It hasn't yet gotten a lot of wear. I've worn it a few times, but I only just finished it over the summer. And so I'm really excited to be able to wear this in the spring. The fit is perfect. Did I do a gauge swatch? I don't remember if I did a gauge swatch. I think that I pretty much trusted, based on having test knit her Garland pullover, I trusted like the size that I chose to knit would be good, and my experience with fingering weight yarn and my gauge. No, actually I did. You know what? I started knitting I think I had to go down a needle size is what it was, because I did start knitting the body and it was turning out like super big. I didn't test swatch, but yeah, that's what happened. I started knitting it and I was like, this looks way too big. I ripped it back. I went to a smaller needle size, and then we were good to go from there. So this was a Knit Picks Hawthorne yarn, fingering weight yarn that I had gotten in a fiber share swap. And then the self-striping yarn also is Knitworthy Things. I think it was called Squash Blossoms. This is like this is right up there. I think I had some very successful short sleeve tea sweaters this year, which is great because I did not have too many, and now I have a few more in my closet. So yeah, and I love the detail of this sweater. The colors of this make me super happy. So this is one of my top sweaters that I knit in 2021 for sure. And this one was just because I had to knit it when I saw the pattern. This was not a test knit. This was just a purely because I wanted to knit. And it makes me so happy. So here are some finished object photos of that one. And then finally, one of the sweaters I finished earlier on in the year was another one that I knit just because I wanted to. And that was my worsted boxy by Joji Locatelli. And this is one that I wear so often. I wear this thing all the time. It is so cozy and I just love the fit of it. I knit this in Malabriga Rios, which is the yarn that she called for in the pattern. And the colorway is Va, and it is gorgeous. I love the colors. Oh my gosh, it is just beautiful. I love the fit of this. It is like throwing on a comfy t-shirt or a comfy sweatshirt, and I could probably knit 1,000 more worsted boxies and be the happiest girl. So this was probably also one of my most favorite knits that is not a holiday sweater that I just throw on all the time. Probably the best addition to my wardrobe out of everything that I have knit. So as always, sweaters take up the bulk of my knitting. I did want to talk about a shawl that I knit. This kind of is crossing over in between finished objects for me and Knitworthy because this shawl was supposed to be a gift for my mother-in-law. It was supposed to be her Christmas gift. But she sadly passed away early September and we miss her so much. And it's been a really difficult holiday season without her here. But this classic Hampton wrap, I really need to mention because when I put this on, it's like I get a hug from my mother-in-law. And I have worn this so many times. It is so warm. So the classic Hampton wrap, I have actually knit this 3 times now and 3 times this year. So this was a lot of knitting. 2 of them I did as sample knits for Tabitha over at Long Island Yarn and Farm. It is using her yarn. And then my mother-in-law really, really liked it and wanted one for herself. And so I knit this one for her. I did get to present it to her in hospice before she passed away. So she did get to feel it and know that I completed it for her. And she felt all the love that I put into this. And it's just something that I treasure for myself so much now that I have this, that every time I think of her and need a hug, I can just put this on and I'm warm and I feel very comforted every time I wear this. So there was one other shawl that I knit this year, and that was, well, that I finished. There's another shawl that I still have not finished, but that is the Lightweight Hipster by Joji Locatelli. I wear this so much too. Before this year, I was not a shawl person, and 2021 has taught me that I really like shawls and I really like knitting shawls. So I can definitely see 2022 more shawls coming into my wardrobe for sure. So this is the Lightweight Hipster by Joji Locatelli. I will insert a few finished object photos. I used the same yarn that she called for in the pattern. I just happened to have a skein of it in my stash, and that was Magpie Fibers Swanky Sock, and it just uses one single skein. So, and I just absolutely love this shawl. I actually usually wear this one with the top that I have on right now. So that's what this one looks like. So I think that the most surprising thing was my lack of sock knitting in 2021. Usually I knit so many socks and have so many socks to add into my stash, and I think I only completed half the amount this year that I did last year. And I made 3 pairs of socks for myself. I do love them all so much. So let me show you what they are. I did the, what is this? The Vanilla is the New Black heel. And this was a Naughty and Nice colorway by Julia over at Knitworthy Things. So I really, really love these socks. These are my only Christmas socks. And I wear these a lot, not just at Christmas time. And I definitely need to be making more Christmas colorway socks, because this year I really felt the lack, with all the Vlogmas videos, I felt the lack of Christmas socks very much. So I might just need to knit a whole bunch of Christmas socks this year. That was the first pair of socks off my needles. I think these were a Christmas Day cast on last year, and they got off my needles in January. So those were the first off my needles. Next up, also by Knitworthy Things, I think all 3 yarns that I used for myself were Knitworthy Things, which makes sense because I subscribe to her sock club, sock yarn of the month club. Yeah, sock yarn of the month club. I get 2 colorways every month from Julia. And this was a Valentine's Day colorway, and I wear these all the time. I actually thought I wasn't going to wear these so much, and they turned out to be some of my favorite socks. I have a lot more pink in my wardrobe than I thought that I did, and they're just super pretty. Also, this is a pattern that I use often. I don't remember, what is this, Wise Hilda's Basic Ribbed Sock or something. It's a Kate Atherley pattern. And so these fit me really, really well because of all of the ribbing. It's just a really nice fit. And yeah, these just turned out so perfectly. And then the last pair of socks that I made for myself is a, what is the pattern called? Like vanilla rib sock or something like that. I'll have it inserted below. These I call my Easter socks because this was with the Jelly Beans colorway from Knitworthy Things. And I actually was surprised at how often I wear these socks, because I have a lot of this plum color in my wardrobe. So I actually found that I pull these out quite often to wear, and these actually fit my feet super well too. I knit this pattern a lot. It has a side ribbing but stockinette in the front, so it's not like a full all around rib, but it's just like cinches in the sides. And so that actually really fits my feet very well. So those are all the socks that I did for myself. You'll see the other socks that I made for Owen in the Knitworthy segment. And then the last 2 things I made for myself were some hats. And both of these happened just in December this year. So the first one, and this is my new favorite hat, is the Slouchy Farmers Cap. And this was done with a skein of worsted weight yarn from Tabitha over at Long Island Yarn and Farm. I love the way that this hat fits. It is my warmest hat. I wear this constantly. This is my new favorite hat. I highly recommend the pattern. Just the only thing about this pattern is you can only get the pattern if you buy a worsted weight skein of yarn from Tabitha over at Long Island Yarn and Farm. But it just takes one single skein, so it is a simple way to treat yourself to a little bit of luxury. So that's that one. And then the very last thing that I finished for myself was my Santa hat. I love this thing. It's so cute. It has been really fun to wear this holiday season. Just to feel a little bit more festive at home. And yeah, this was something that I bought all the materials for last year, and then I never got around to casting it on. And I just think it turned out so cute. This is a free pattern from Cascade Yarns, so you can find it on Ravelry for free. And I'll have it linked below. I just love the way that it turned out. I used a really like polyester velvet, I think it's called like baby velvet from Bernat Yarns that I just picked up at Michael's last year. And then the red is a superwash worsted weight yarn from Plymouth Yarns. And then this really fun pom-pom that I had picked up at Knitting Cove in Port Jefferson, which is my local yarn shop. I picked that up last year. So I love the way that this turned out. So that was all of my selfish knitting. I think that the biggest thing that I have taken away from the knitting that I did for myself is how important that gauge swatch is. Unless I am very comfortable with like having knit a bunch of patterns by the same designer and can pretty much know what I'm going to need to do. Like Caitlin Hunter patterns, I know that my gauge is pretty much bang on with hers, and I can just kind of choose my size, and whatever her recommended needles are, I should be able to just be good and go. But I've also learned through doing so much test knitting for Annie over at Boho Chic Fiber Co. that she and I have a different gauge. We knit very differently. And I am always having to change needle size almost all the time when I knit a pattern of hers. And since I do test knit for Annie quite often because I love her designs, I have learned, it took me too many test knits for her to learn that when it comes to her patterns, I just really do need to take the time to do that gauge swatch first if I want to be happy with the finished result. And why would you go through all of that time and effort knitting a project if you're not going to be able to use the final product, right? So I think that is my biggest lesson that I have taken away from 2021. Also, I don't want to commit to as many test knits in the upcoming year. I think that even though I love a lot of the sweaters that I have test knit and they have turned out to be nice additions to my wardrobe, the things that I have been knitting just because I want to, I think are going to be the things that get the most wear. So that doesn't mean I'm not going to test knit. I already have one that I'm about to cast on, but I was very careful in picking it because I saw it as being a fun layering piece that I will be able to just throw on to help give me a little bit of added warmth, and it should be super cute. So, and I already did my gauge swatch. So that's all ready to go to cast on, and I washed and blocked my gauge swatch as well. So I did take the time to do that. So as many of you know, I tried to up my spinning game in 2021, and I definitely upped it. Did I accomplish as much as I expected to or hoped to? I don't think so. But did I accomplish much, much more than I have in any other year? Yes. Yes, I did. So I have been spinning for maybe 3 years, not really that long. I don't even remember which year I started, but I do mostly drop spinning, and I have also an Eel Wheel Nano. Now, last year, I received for Christmas a Lazy Kate. And I thought that I was going to use it to finally ply these together. I have not touched my Eel Wheel Nano all year long. And I don't know why. I don't know why. This is still sitting in the same state that it was. But let's talk about what I did finish. So the only spinning that I did this year was on my drop spindle. It took me a while to get going into this spinning habit in 2021. I initially tried to do a challenge of knitting for 15 minutes every day for like 100 days. Not that it had to be consecutive, but I didn't even get that going for quite a while. But then once I did start spinning, I was pretty consistent with it. But here's the thing that I discovered about me and spinning. I like to spin outdoors, in the quiet, outside, sitting there when the weather is nice and it's a beautiful day to sit outside, which means that I don't tend to spin inside. Now, I want to change that because, I don't know, I just would like to spin more often. Not just outside. Spinning is an indoor activity. I do not have a spinning wheel, but I do have an Eel Wheel Nano, and I didn't use it at all this year. Not even one day. So that's something that I want to change going into 2022, is I really would like to get that Eel Wheel Nano out. Now, is it going to happen right away? No, and that is because we are moving. And so we are busy packing up all of our things. So realistically, I'm not going to get the Eel Wheel going until we are settled in a new place somewhere. But drop spinning, I want to be able to drop spin when I am in the house too, not just when I'm outside. So I need to get it set up in a situation where I see it and I grab it and I find a place to do it. So I think that's what's really holding me up. But even with all of that, all of those limitations, I did manage to complete 4 finished yarns, which, considering that I do everything on my drop spindle, isn't really that bad. So let's go through everything that I spun this year. So the first yarn that I finished spinning is this beautiful fiber from Frabjous Fibers. I believe that I had started this prior to 2021. So this was my first official finished yarn spun on my drop spindle. I think only the second one that I ever finished. So I am not a very consistent spinner, getting more consistent in my technique, but consistent in that I don't do it as often as I do my knitting. So this is my second ever completed yarn, and I love how it turned out. I don't remember the name of the colorway, but it's gorgeous blues and purples, and I love the thick and thin aspect of it. And I still need to figure out how much yardage I have so that I can pick a project to knit this up into. So hopefully in 2022, maybe this will turn into something. Who knows? But it's a beautiful yarn. This is one that I was super duper proud of. And yeah, so that was the first yarn that I finished spinning in 2021. So one of the best Christmas gifts I got last year was from my husband. It was a subscription to the Paradise Fibers Fiber of the Month Club. So every month I have been getting a new fiber to try, or a new combination of fibers to try from Paradise Fibers. And I film an unboxing video every time it comes in. So I loved it so much that my husband at my request, continued the subscription for me. So I will be continuing to receive Paradise Fibers in 2022 and doing those unboxing videos for you. And despite getting fiber in every single month, I only managed to spin up one of the fibers that came throughout the year. And so in March, I got a rainbow merino with some stellina in it, plus some neon green neps to make an art yarn. And so I made this art yarn with that month's Fiber Club subscription. So this was something totally different for me. I had never made an art yarn before, and that was so much fun. And I believe that I got this the month of March. So between the rainbow and the green, it was nice and springy and right around St. Patrick's Day feeling. This was a really, really fun spin. I actually have another colorway because somebody had shared with me the neps, like a red crimson neps that they had gotten for their Paradise Fibers subscription, and they weren't going to use it. So they sent me that, and I picked up a different colorway. And so I do have one more kind of art yarn that I can spin up maybe this year. I have so much fiber now. The stash is becoming quite nice, and I'm not complaining. So this was what I spun up from Paradise Fibers, and that was my art yarn. And then the next yarn that I spun up was a undyed natural Cotswold sheep. And I have since dyed it, so when I show it to you, it is not the original color of the sheep. This was a yarn that I spun from Cotswold sheep that Tabitha owns at her farm, and it's mixed in. It's partly her sheep, but it's 100% Cotswold. So part of it was her sheep. I think it was clover, was her baby clovers, and then it was mixed in with other sheep from around wherever her spinnery is. And so I spun up this beautiful fiber, and then I dyed it with hibiscus. And I believe I overheated the hibiscus and we got a brown. But it's a beautiful brown, and it's just not what I was going for. But I do really like the yarn that I spun. So here's just one of what that looks like. And this is definitely a more rustic yarn, and I will probably use these as color work in like some mittens. I think this would be really nice in some mittens. And I have another yarn of hers too that once I spin, or fiber of hers that once I spin that up, I might use together with this. So that was the third yarn that I spun in 2021. And then the last completed yarn that I spun up in 2021 is actually my favorite of all. And this is the last completed yarn, obviously, if it's the last one I did. This was a fiber that I had in my stash from Frabjous Fibers, and this was the Iris colorway, and I actually have it all caked up because I am currently using this in a project. I just love how it turned out. It reminds me a little bit of Spin Cycle in the way that the, what's it called, the barber pole striping works up and how it changes colors throughout. So I was super pleased with this, and I am using this in my Junction sweater by Andrea Mowry as the contrasting color for the color work. So those are the 4 yarns that I spun up in 2021. More than I had ever done before. 4 is not quite as much as I was hoping to spin this past year. So hopefully 2022 I will spin more than 4 yarns. I've already got 2 in the works, but they are a work in progress still. Yeah, so I think we will go on to our Knitworthy segment, and I can show you all the things that I knit for the boys. So earlier when I was sitting down getting ready to record, Owen came in here and decided he wanted to record. And so I did let him go through for Knitworthy the things that I knit for him. So he was pretty silly, but I think that it's appropriate that Owen gets to show off his items for his own Knitworthy segment. So I'll probably insert that, but I thought I would go ahead and show you the things that I knit for my husband this year. He fared out okay, not as great as other years. So I made him 2 things this year, and it was both fairly recently. We have a faux and a hoe, finished object and a half finished object. So the very first thing is the Musselburgh hat, which looks ridiculous on me because I have a small head and he has a very large head. But it fits him very well. I don't have a picture of him in it yet to share with you guys, but this thing I knit so many times. The yarn is the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, and it is a Knit Circus yarn in a BFL fiber. And I made it quite a long way through the hat, and I did have to finish with another yarn, and so I found in my leftovers bin the Sleepy Pumpkin Patch colorway from Knitworthy Things, and I thought that that went really well. The pumpkin colorways went so well together, and so this turned out great in the end, but boy, did I have to re-knit this thing a couple of times. But it all worked out in the end. Rather than just let it go and have a hat that he was not going to wear, he wears this hat now. So let me put it back together. I'm gonna shove it back inside itself. So this is the Musselburgh hat by Isolde Teague. And when it's not put together as a hat, it looks like this. Like a weird big tube. Yeah, so I got on the Musselburgh bandwagon, and let's just say that my first attempt did not work out. But she persisted, and we got there. We got a hat. So it does look better on him when he folds the brim up. So I should probably get a picture of this on him at some point. But yeah, this is the Musselburgh hat by Isolde Teague. And so that is the hat that was supposed to be for my husband's birthday, November 1st. And he finally got it a couple weeks ago in December. But it's done, and it happened in 2021. So I'm happy with that. And then, of course, you guys will recognize, or should recognize, this mitten is, oh my gosh, he loves this thing so much. I think I deleted the footage because I used it on Vlogmas, and then I had so many videos that I deleted it. I think I already deleted it off my phone. Too bad, because I had filmed a video of him trying this on and receiving it for the first time the day after Christmas. So I didn't quite get it done for Christmas, but this thing turned out so great. So this is the Bernie Mitten Replica pattern by Danielle Chauvet. I think she's knitting nicely with a K-N-I nicely. Knitting nicely on Instagram. And yeah, so this was a pay-for pattern, and I chose this pattern over a free pattern because she offered multiple sizes. So my husband was never going to fit in a one-size-fits-all medium woman hand mitten. So she offered 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. So I did the large size for him. And she also had instructions in the pattern for an inner lining. So that was another aspect that I really, really wanted to have. in these mittens because I wanted it to replicate the original idea of the Bernie mittens as closely as possible, in that, you know, it was several knit sweaters cut up and put together, the original Bernie mittens, but I wanted it to have that same look. So, you know, it's the knitting is in different directions, which is really cool. It follows the patterns of his mittens. It's not the same shades of color, but I used Green Mountain Spinnery mountain mohair for this, and their yarn is just so beautiful. And with Bernie being from Vermont, I thought it was really appropriate to use a Vermont yarn for this project. And then for the lining, I used Woolfolk Flet, and so it's just kind of like a soft boucle layer. And he really, really loves this mitten. Now he just wants me to do the second one. So, yeah, so that will be a whip going into 2022. Now I've got to get that thumb back inside this mitten here. I didn't think that through, taking the lining out. All right, we got that sorted out. It is back put together. And yeah, so he is really excited to get his hands in a second mitten in 2022. So this will be one of my first whips to continue because it's about to get super cold here on Long Island in January. It usually is the coldest in January and February. So yeah, I think that came out so great. And so that's all he ended up with this year. Yeah, that's it. Mostly I did knitting for myself. Owen made out better than my husband, but you know. So for Owen, I'll let him show everything, but he got, of course, he got his Harry Potter Gryffindor scarf. He got Hedwig. And then he also got Winnie the Pooh, because he played Winnie the Pooh in his theater production. He was the starring role. And so I made him this guy to celebrate that. And then the very first stuffed animal we added to his collection was Pinky, the hippo. And this is a Lola Did It hippo. Roxy, I think, is the name. And we, for the yarn, Owen and I made the yarn. We dyed it ourselves with Kool-Aid, and we did snow dyeing. And the lights in here, I apologize for the lighting situation. This is why I don't normally record in the bedroom. But she's super cute. We dyed the yarn ourselves with snow dyeing and Kool-Aid, and we did a little video on that. And so, yeah, I think he likes her a lot. So those were the 3 stuffed animals, and he got a scarf, and then the only other knits that he got from me were socks. And I only knit him 3 pairs too. I don't know why. Like last year, I think we each got 6 socks, and my husband got a pair of socks. And this year, I only knit half as many socks because Owen and I each only got 3 pairs of socks. So the first project to come off my needles in 2021 were these rainbow socks. He likes these because they are sparkly, which I think you can probably see a little bit. This was a colorway called Paint Box by Knitworthy Things. And then I knit him, I noticed his feet were growing and he was no longer fitting in many of his hand knit socks. So I knit him these really cute socks. These were a Regia Arne and Carlos, one of those perfect sock sets where you can knit 2 of the same exact matching socks. So I love these, and these fit him super well. And I have several more colorways of these, so I think I'm going to knit more of these up for him this year because he's running low on hand knit socks. And then the very last pair of socks that I knit this year were these holiday socks, because he needed holiday socks for Rock Your Holiday Socks Day at school at the end of December. And so I knit these for him. Honestly, these don't fit him great because I accidentally cast on too many stitches and made the legs wider than his legs are. So they're a bit slouchy. And he's pretty skinny. So, but he still likes them because they are sparkly. So they were still a win. He wore them for his celebration at school and all is good. Just like his mommy, he likes his socks to be mismatched. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to have matchy-matchy, but it's also nice to have mismatchy. So Owen fared out pretty well this year. So I knit more stuffed animals than I normally ever do, and that was fun. So hopefully we'll knit him a few more friends in 2022. And I am now going to turn it over to Owen. He's very silly. So if 7-year-old silliness is not your thing, feel free to sign off now. But if you enjoy watching Owen on my show, as many of you do, then he is here for your enjoyment. I hope that you enjoyed this roundup of everything that came off of my needles in 2021. I wish you all a happy new year, and I will see you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Hey everybody, welcome to the Stop, Drop, and Knit podcast. This is Lisa and
Owen.
I think Owen wanted to do a little takeover for me today. I think he was feeling a little bit lonely and wanted to show off the things that I finished knitting in 2021. What do you want to show off first? Are you knitworthy? Yes. Are you knitworthy?
Yes.
Yeah? All right, so what do you see that Mommy made for you that is your favorite? What is this? What is it?
A scarf.
What kind of scarf?
A Gryffindor scarf.
A Gryffindor scarf. For what is that from?
Mommy.
Oh, look at you. How many times does it wrap around you? Like 15. There you go. So, is this Harry Potter?
Yes.
Is it huge?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to last you a lifetime as you grow?
Yes.
Do you wish I made you Slytherin instead?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, but why did I make this for you, though?
Because I was Harry Potter for Halloween.
Right. Good. Do you see another Harry Potter item that I knit for you?
Yes.
Yes. You can leave this on for a minute.
Want to.
It's too hot in here with the lights, right?
Ah!
Who's that?
Hedwig.
Hedwig. Does he look like Hedwig? No.
I have a bigger. Remember?
Well, yeah, you got a bigger one at Build-A-Bear, but that one wasn't knit for you.
But I
You still love this one too,
still
right?
love both.
Yeah.
I just love both.
Can you show like details of him? So, oh, his butt, of course. Can you show his face? Yeah.
He looks sad because his eyes
His
are
eyes are kind of wonky.
Looks
Can you show the wings? The wings were really fun to knit. Yeah, that's super up close. So what do you think? Hedwig, did it work out? Yeah? And the scarf? Were these two successful?
Yes, I love them in the light. Look.
Okay, well they can't see that light over there. So.
Look, Mom.
Oh, look, what are you doing? Wrapping up.
Hedwig.
Mm-hmm.
In a scarf.
Oh, and then can you hold him up? There we go. So those were two things that I knit for you. Did I knit some other friends for you this year too?
Yes.
Can you grab one of them? All right, who is this?
Pinky.
This is Pinky. And do you remember what we did to make the yarn?
We dyed it with Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and what?
Water?
Not water.
Pink?
What was it doing outside in the winter?
I forgot.
Snowing.
Snowing.
Yeah, we snow dyed the yarn with Kool-Aid and snow. Oh, and I put a, what did I say?
Yo, mommy.
Your mama made it, tag on it. Yeah, so we dyed the yarn for Pinky with Kool-Aid. And we did a snow dyeing technique. And I think that...
We left out Bunny and Mouse.
Well, that was it because Bunny and Mouse were in last year's video. These guys are not... You love all of these guys, but are they as favorites as Bunny and Mouse? Or Bunny and Mouse still your favorites? I know, that's okay. They're special. But do you like Pinky? Yeah? What are you doing? What's different this year about your teeth than last year's video? You missing two, huh? How old are you now?
7.
Yeah. So, you love Pinky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was a good choice for that project with that yarn.
Oh, no, you can see him.
Hold him up. What are you doing?
I can see
Okay, so that's Pinky. Did I make one other friend for you too?
Yes!
Who is this?
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. Does he look like Winnie the Pooh?
No.
No. Ish.
He looks fatter.
Well, Winnie the Pooh eats a lot of honey.
No, he actually looks skinnier.
Oh, he looks skinnier,
He
you
looks
think?
like skinnier than his head. His head is bigger
He
than
kind
his
of
body.
matches your outfit today.
Look, he can't even fit on the camera.
He's so fat, huh? Why did I make you Winnie the Pooh?
Because I was Winnie the Pooh for an audition last year.
Theater. For your theater show, you got the role of Winnie the Pooh. So you were Pooh. And so I gave this to you after your show, or right before your show. Yeah, because you were Winnie the Pooh. Yeah.
After.
So when he came to watch your show, I remember that. So I think it was right before. So those were the 3 friends. Out of these 3 friends, do you have a favorite?
Yeah.
Who?
Bunny and Mouse.
Out of these 3? Bunny and Mouse are still your all-time favorites. So these guys... You want to go get Bunny and Mouse?
Hold on.
Okay.
Be like that, guys.
Here he is.
I'm back with Mouse. I only want Mouse.
No, you didn't. You've got Bunny too.
Bye. How do you?
Uh-oh. Pinky fell. That's Bunny. And this is Mouse.
I love Mouse better than Bunny. Bunny's brains always have out.
Yeah, his head didn't close for some reason. I don't know why. So his brains always come out.
So his brains always come out like that.
Bunny's pretty special. Bunny was an Arne and Carlos pattern for the Easter Bunny, and then Mouse. Anyway, what else did I knit for you?
Socks.
Yep, how many pairs?
3.
Yeah, can you get them?
1. How about 1?
Do you remember which ones I did first? Those are the ones I did first. And do you like these?
Yes.
Why?
Because they're sparkly.
They're sparkly and
glittery.
You like sparkly things, right? Do you like rainbow things too? Yeah. You're crazy. And so I have these socks also. All right, buddy. I've got these same socks except in mommy size. And that's a little close.
I like it.
I know. And he was begging me to make him a pair of rainbow sparkly socks. So those were actually the first things off my needle in 2021 were these socks for you. Did you know that?
I'm just from 2021. 2020.
Last January.
2020.
Nope. We're so done with 2020.
Oh,
what other socks did I make you?
2020.
Did your feet grow a bunch this year?
Yes.
Yeah. Did we have to get rid of
This
some
is
of your
the
socks?
second one.
These are the second ones that I made for you. These are an Arne and Carlos. One of those like easy start balls.
Mommy,
Yes.
you kind of gave me a hint because they all stack up on each other.
By the, oh, okay. So these were an Arnie and Carlos design. One of these perfect kids sets, and they match perfectly. These probably fit you the best too right now. All right, and then did I knit you?
I watched this one. I can't do it anymore. I just keep that.
Okay, we've got one more thing for your little segment here. Can you show the last? Is this all the socks that I knit you?
So new.
These are so new. Why did I knit these for you?
Because it's bulky.
Rock your holiday socks day. So rock your holiday socks day at school a few weeks ago.
Woo! I love it.
What do you think about these?
They are the most awesome socks ever.
Do they fit you really well though?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought they were big around your ankles and slouched down, and they're sparkly though.
See? They're big.
Look how sparkly those are. Yep. All right. So you got 3 friends, 3 pairs of socks, and a Gryffindor scarf. How would you say you made out this year?
Good.
Great. Pretty good. Did Daddy get anything special?
Yes.
Do you want to show off Daddy's? Because Daddy's not going to come on video either.
Why does he only have one glove?
Why does he only have one mitten? Well, has Mommy knit the mitten yet? This is the Musselburgh hat. It's very big on Owen because it's for an adult extra large. Here, let's roll this up.
No.
Oh, no, don't.
No.
Okay. All right, and you want to put the mitten on? Here. This is the Bernie Sanders mitten. Other one. I know you can't see. Other hand. It goes on your left hand.
I can't see.
You're silly. Ah, is this super warm?
Oh my goodness, where's my thumb?
Yeah, it's huge. I don't think you remember the Bernie memes, but
Oh.
there you go. One more time. You're so cute.
And here's my hair.
It's okay. Can you just show off the mitten for a minute? And then we're going to finish this segment up. So, what do you think? Daddy loves this mitten.
Bernie Minin.
Do I need to make him another one?
It's boring with just one.
Just one. But
Just
that way
one.
he can use his phone with his other hand, right? Okay, so that concludes our Knitworthy segment for 2021. Who do you think was more knitworthy, you or Daddy? You?
No.
You were Daddy. Well, yeah, that's for myself. I knit a lot for myself. All right. That's a wrap for Knitworthy.